How could something that isn't the thing be more real than the thing?
Well, that's exactly the problem with abstraction, right? Is the idea of a church more real than a given church? Well, it is in some ways, because it encapsulates what's similar across all churches, right? So it's like a Platonic ideal. A category is like a Platonic ideal. Is it more or less real? Well, you could say that the reality, this is what Plato said, the reality is a dim shadow of the essence. The reality is less real than the ideal. And we certainly, and that's actually in some ways built into our perception. Like we criticize the things that present themselves to us because they are poor reflections of the hypothetical ideal. You might say, well, the ideal isn't real. It's like, well, you could make the opposite argument, which is that the ideal is more real than the thing itself. I mean, I can give you an example of these patterns. So in the story of Cain and Abel, you have two patterns of sacrifice. Okay, why is sacrifice an issue? The reason it's an issue is because people exist in a sacrificial relationship to the world. What does that mean? It seems to mean something like human beings are aware of their extended self. You know you're going to be around tomorrow and next week and next month and next year and 5 years from now and 10 years from now. Now it's less certain as you go out, but you do have the sense of yourself as something that stretches across the decades. Okay, and so what that means is that you have to conduct yourself in a manner that isn't merely immediate. You have to conduct yourself in a manner that will work across time. Now, how do people do that? They work. Work is a sacrificial gesture. So you work, by definition, virtually. Work is the sacrifice of the present for the future. I mean, maybe someone can come up with a better definition of work than that, but I don't think so. It's like you put in time and effort right now. It's something, even if it's something maybe not what you'd like to be doing at the moment, you put in time and effort because you believe, what the hell does that mean? You believe it'll pay off. Well, is that a contract with the future? Is it a covenant? Because the relationship that the biblical corpus insists characterizes human striving is covenantal. It's a bargain. The bargain is you make the right sacrifices and they pay off. That's the bargain. Now, you might say, well, that's just part of the social contract, but the biblical corpus insists that it's deeper than that. It's built into the structure of reality itself. And that if you got the sacrifices right, the future would be paradisal.
I've got it in my head that Carl Jung quote, beware of unearned wisdom. Mm-hmm. That feels like it plays a role here. Like how the work that you need to put in order to be able to arrive at genuinely knowing the thing, the difference between actually being attractive because who you are is attractive and you being able to be a pickup artist that is able to make the mouth noises and the hand gestures that cause
those are the fruits of false sacrifice. You could say that unearned moral reputation is the consequence of false sacrifice.
Well, this is performative empathy, right?
Sure, exactly.
On the internet.
Definitely. That's the same as praying in public. Look at how good I am. If the look at comes before the how good I am, right. It really wreaks havoc on the good claim.
It's also, I spoke to Douglas about this, it seems to almost be a predictor. It's an identifier that you should be a little bit more cautious about what this person's doing.
Definitely.
You know, if every single person that's super sweetie and nicey, Lizzo. Do you see Lizzo was in the news recently?
No.
So she is a artist, singer.
She the one that got in trouble for abusing her close compatriots.
Her dancers, yeah. She made her dancers eat bananas out of the vaginas of Amsterdamian strippers. Douglas said that he...
Oh yeah, that's a little on the hedonistic power mad side.
Well, she was supposed to be, this bastion, for the girls and body positivity and all this stuff, but it turned out behind the scenes that she was treating her dancers terribly, body shaming them all of the time, but she was the one up front that was the vanguard of this particular movement. But you'd seen the same with, was it Jimmy Fallon? I think he was caught up in a furor recently that he was a tyrant to work for and yet out front. Ellen DeGeneres, again, the same. It's almost... actually like if somebody is
It's very much like that.
Overloading on the sweetie, nicey, I am here for the underlings, that you go, I'm a little bit suspicious of what's going on there. If you need to proclaim your purity and your good standing, if it's all words and opinions and not deeds.
One of the commandments, one of the 10 commandments is do not use God's name in vain. Okay, now people think that means don't swear. And it sort of means that. That's one of its like tangential meanings. But what it really means is do not claim divine motivation for self-serving behavior. Right? And that's performative compassion. So what you do is you elevate compassion to the highest place. So you make it your God, which is a big mistake, because whatever God is, he is not merely compassion. You elevate compassion to the highest place. And then you say, I feel sorry for people. And what that does is elevate your moral status to the highest possible place, right? It's completely unearned, because this is something J.K. Rowling got so accurate with her Dolores Umbridge character, right? Who's an absolute power mad
always
tyrant.
In pink,
with
had
little
the cats.
Kittens, had the kittens on the plates. It's like this toxic sentimentality. I'm so nice. It's like, yeah, I'd like to stay away from you and your devouring niceness. And the Freudians knew about that in a very sophisticated way, very early, because the devouring mother, the Oedipal mother, is the shadow side of compassion.
I've been trying to come up with a term for this for a while. I like memeing things into existence, giving them names, useful. And at the moment, the best one I've got is the shallow pond of empathy, which is, at the moment, something which appeases people and does not cause them any discomfort immediately is always prioritized, even if the net effect of that over the long term results in their suffering.
Absolutely.
It's the toddler.
That's exactly what the Oedipal situation is. It's the prioritization of short-term emotional comfort over medium to long-term thriving, right? Because the mother who kicks the child out of the nest says, this is going to hurt now, but the iterating consequences are positive.
Michelangelo's Pieta.
Right, exactly. That's right. And that's exactly right. And the moral of that story is that if you give up your children to the world, you will keep them. Right. That's the sacrifice of Abraham. Abraham is called upon by God to sacrifice his son, and he says yes, so he doesn't have to. Right. You have to offer up your children to be broken by the world, or you lose them. You undermine them. You destroy them. It's a very paradoxical truth. We were talking about patterns. Cain is the pattern of inappropriate sacrifice. He does everything second rate. He lies. He omits. He prevaricates. He pretends. He doesn't offer his best. Abel's the opposite. He offers his best, which means his light is shining on the hill, right? There's no hiding. He's giving it everything he's got. The covenant with God is that if you give it everything you've got, you will prevail. And that's what God tells Cain.
Which, to go through some of the threads from today, instinct, staying true to that instinct, honesty, saying what you mean, not prioritizing, avoiding someone else's or your discomfort in the short term in order to believe that this is something which is going to make you feel better over the long term. Yeah.
Well, that's a kind of sacrifice right there, is that you're willing to sacrifice your short-term physiological and psychological comfort for a medium to long-term benefit. It's the essence of sacrifice, to offer this is something the atheists don't understand about the biblical narrative, is that the narrative insists that we live in a sacrificial relationship. It's the essence of humanity to live in a sacrificial relationship. It's like, well, is that true or not? Well, as you mature, your relationships are more sacrificial. It's less about what you, in your narrow sense, want right now, and it's more about what's good over the medium to long run, including other people. Well, that's a sacrificial relationship. Now, the covenant, and this is a matter of faith. It's the matter of the deepest faith. Are you willing to act out the proposition that the way to make the world reveal itself to you in its most positive guise is for you to adopt the most appropriate sacrificial relationship. Well, it's a big risk, isn't it? Because you have to give up everything. That's the deal. You give up everything that's low. Everything. Well, that's what the Christian passion is, because the Christian passion is an archetypal story, because Christ is the person who sacrifices everything. Thoroughly. 100%. And the biblical notion is that there's no difference between that and the descent of the God of the Old Testament into the space of human reality. So God is elaborated as a spirit in the Old Testament. That's a way of thinking about it. Fleshed out, right, into the law and the prophets. And Christ presents himself as the embodiment of that. So imagine, here's a way of thinking about it. You can invite various spirits to possess you. That's what you do when you give way to rage. That's what you do when you give way to lust, let's say. You allow spirits to possess you. Well, what would you be like if you did nothing but allow the highest of spirits to possess you?